Today, day 2, favorite playable race. So I mentioned in the first video that my very first official character, my air quotes, was a Dwarven fighter, and he is one of my all-time favorite characters of all time. Redundant. When it comes to favorite playable race, there's a couple ways I could go about it. So I could tell you the race I've played most often, and you would think that might be my favorite race. I could tell you the race that I have enjoyed playing the most, and that could be my favorite race. I could tell you the race that I've most look forward to playing whenever I'm playing a character of that race, and that could be my favorite race. There's different ways to go about it. I think I'll start by talking about my least favorite race, which is elves. I hate them. Never been fond of elves as a race. Don't like them. I've played an elf a couple times, mostly as a wizard. I think once. I don't even think I played an elf archer once. Mostly just a couple wizards. Maybe a bard. If I'm gonna go elf, I only go half elf. Half elves are better than elves. Halfling is another one of my least favorite races, and I have no particular hatred for halflings. Unlike elves, for halflings it's just I'm not as interested in playing a halfling. I have played halflings before. I remember one of my halfling rogues was Pontifar Five Knives, a name that I took out of a Dragon Magazine article with 101 NPCs, one of which was a halfling rogue named Pontifar Five Knives, who carried, dun-da-da-da, 5 knives with engravings of a green dragon on them, and his goal in life was to slay a green dragon. So I just played that character. I also like to play a halfling cleric named Sunshine. She is a plant and... No, her name wasn't Sunshine. Her name was Tomato. Tomato Sunshine. She had the plant and sun domains, because I wanted to find a way to make kind of the most worthless character I could. Sun domain's not bad, but it's really good against undead. Plant domain isn't great. And this is the original 3rd edition rules. But yeah, halflings are down there. Gnomes are above halflings. I like gnomes more than halflings. They're a lot more fun. Half-orcs. I really like playing half-orcs, because it's fun to just be the big guy. You know, you get to be stupid, you get to be intimidating, and you get to hit things like a truck. Dwarves, of course, are way up at the top of the list, and humans are up at the top of the list. Now, the biggest reason I play humans in D&D is because 3rd edition gave me an extra feat. There was really no good reason to play a human when you played any of the previous versions of D&D. There were certain like level limits and what have you, and class restrictions and things in Basic and AD&D and 2nd edition. But in general, demi-humans, which is what they were called, the demi-human races, were just better than humans. They got all kinds of special abilities and advantages that humans didn't have. Come 3rd edition, though, that extra feat was such a huge boost to the popularity of humans. And as a result, some of my longest-lived, most fun characters were humans. Mikhail was a human. Cervantes was a human. I've never played Eldrick, but Eldrick was a human. The characters I'm playing right now, one is a half-elf, and the other one is a Samsaran, which is a weird race from the Advanced Player's Guide for Pathfinder. Some of the races that I've been most interested in playing, one that I want to play so bad and I can never get a chance to play it, is a Gripply. I love the little frog dudes. They're so cool. But I never get around to getting to play a Gripply. If not a Gripply, then a Bullywug, which is a bigger toad-like creature. Those guys are fun too. They are high on my list of awesome sauce. Let me think if there's anything else when it comes to races where it's just like, I need to play one of these. In 4th edition, I played Genasi only because they match up so very well with warlords. And I also played Eladrin. They were my second most common race. Now, technically, they're elves, but they're not quite elves. They also fit really well with the warlord mechanics. I would say overall, my favorite race is dwarves. My dwarves feature heavily in my campaign world. I love playing dwarven characters. I can imagine playing a dwarf of any class. Now, thanks to 3rd edition, dwarves never used to be able to be wizards. And then 3rd edition came around and said, yeah, you can make a dwarven wizard. And I remember absolutely hating the idea of a dwarven wizard. And a big part of that was also the picture of the dwarven wizard that was in the Hero Builder's Guidebook. I believe it was the Hero Builder's Guidebook had a picture of a dwarven wizard. And I really hated the artwork for it. I'm like, that is not what dwarves should look like. But, yeah, I wouldn't play a dwarven wizard. I actually have played a dwarven wizard, but they're not a good class combination for me. But as far as favorite playable race, I love playing dwarves. Well, yeah, I love playing dwarves from a flavor perspective. I suppose my favorite playable race from a gameplay perspective is actually humans because of the extra feat. It's too valuable in 3rd edition and Pathfinder. I never played a human in 4th edition. I don't like humans in 4th edition. They're stupid. So yeah, let me see if I can confuse this any more. Because, like I mentioned right at the beginning of the video, the hard part with this is defining what it means to say favorite playable race. Because a huge portion of my dwarf love comes from putting them in my campaign world. So I got to think about what I've played in a game that I've loved playing as a dwarf. And I suppose when it comes to actually playing characters, like I said before, humans are probably the one that I have loved playing the most, only because they give you that extra feat and it just works out so well. So yeah, it's a tie between dwarves and humans. I really do love playing dwarves. I love playing a dwarven cleric and a dwarven fighter. They are iconic. They are highly effective. They are resilient as all hell, and dwarves are just fun to play. You can play a dwarf in so many different stereotypes. You can play the standard Scottish dwarf. You can play the Viking dwarf. There's the Russian dwarf. I have a group of dwarves in my campaign world that are Japanese dwarves. That's not where Worf Nichiobi comes from. It's from Legend of the Five Rings. I actually took some guys from there and decided that they're dwarves. When I was running a game of 4th edition through the Scales of War Adventure Path, which is a sequel in a way to the what was it called? Red something. The Red Hand or something like that. Red Doom from 3rd edition, which was a really great adventure path. Anyway, I re-skinned that whole adventure path to take place in the world of Legend of the Five Rings, and dwarves were the Crab Clan, because the Crab Clan just holds onto a wall, and that's all they do. Well, that's not all they do, but that's their thing, is they've built this wall, and nothing is going to come across the wall, and they just constantly get beat on. And I love that. I really, really like that. I don't like the greedy dwarf. I do believe that there's a spot for that, and actually I kind of feel like there should be more of that, since we've gotten so far away from the greedy dwarf stereotype. If you ever get a chance and see the 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dwarf Handbook, that had a lot of different ideas about how dwarves should be viewed. And unfortunately, our collective consciousness of what a dwarf is has shifted into one of the many compartments that it could be. I like the idea of dwarves as... One of the things that I don't like, I guess I'll point out, is dwarves are supposed to have, in my mind, certain set of characteristics. I don't think there should be anyone who makes armor and weapons better than a dwarf does, to a degree. But a lot of times, and part of it is due to Legend of the Five Rings, Lord of the Rings. There's this idea that dwarves do all of this stuff really good, but elves just do it even better than that. So I don't like that. I think dwarves should have a certain area where they're just like, this is what they do, try and outdo a dwarf at that. And then elves can, really just go away. I don't need elves at all. I like keeping elves as limited as possible. So I think that's long enough and good enough. My favorite playable race is dwarves and humans. If only you could have a half dwarf, half human. No, that wouldn't work out very well. Until next time, bye-bye.